Hi guys, Alex here with Inside. Today we're going to be talking about a new waterfront community from Aura called Bayn between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. I'm going to talk about the location. I'll cover the background of the developer and their founder, and we'll talk about the master plan, as this is going to be an area that's fantastic for investment, in my opinion, over the coming 3-4 years. First of all, let's talk about the location. Here we have Palm Jebel Ali, and before I've covered this area over here, Al-Jurf, where Ohana is building, Imkan is building some villas, and of course, one of my favorites, Shah, the luxury wellness Spanish resort. And now we have something in between where Aura is building a new master plan that is launching now, and the entire community will be complete by about 2031. And as we can see, we're right on the border between Dubai and Abu Dhabi, where here we have Dubai and here is already Abu Dhabi. And we're about 6 kilometers of beach line away from Palm Jebel Ali. And this area is going to be developed likely by Nikhil and some other developers in the coming years, to be determined. This area is owned in part by Modan, which is another developer from Abu Dhabi, which together with Aldar builds almost everything in Abu Dhabi. And the developer here, Aura, actually purchased this land from Modan. So if we look at a brief glance at the master plan, we see that it's quite big, and it's almost 5 million square meters, and it's about half the size of Dubai Hills. I'm immediately a fan just because it's a waterfront community, beachfront community. And if we look overall and take a step back at the evolution of communities and which way Dubai and the UAE is growing, and we zoom out on the map, we see that Dubai is growing south along the coastline. So Palm Jebel Ali obviously being developed. We have Al-Jurf, and now this area between Al-Jurf and the Palm is being built, and it's likely to continue downwards towards where, of course, Abu Dhabi and Saadiyat is. And so it makes sense that the coastline is going to be developed, and as always, it's one of my favorite investment strategies, simply because in the long term, it's always going to outperform. People who are moving to the UAE and to Dubai, they always want something waterfront. It always comes at a premium. And so when you're able to get into a master plan community where it's one of the earliest phases, generally this is where investors make money. And I've seen it time and time again, that the people who are decisive, and who usually this comes from investors who understand how this works, you know that when you make a call and invest early stages into something like this, the prices increase pretty rapidly. And we've seen this in Dubai Islands. We've seen this in Maritime City, for instance, where prices went from 2,800 per square foot to 4,000 per square foot in the span of 3 months. And so this appreciation can happen pretty rapidly. And overall, the other direction, of course, it's growing outward towards the desert with communities like Acres, like Emaar South. And yes, there is this expansion outwards, but usually I'm slightly less of a fan of those communities out here, simply because they don't have water, they're not on the beach, and in general, they're going to be aimed more towards people living long-term rather than any sort of short-term rental. Basically, the farther away from the water you are, the more you're eliminating the possibility of doing short-term rentals, even monthly rentals. So anytime it's waterfront, I'm always a fan. Let's dive into the community and the project itself, the master plan, to see what it's all about. So the project is called Bayn, and it's by Aura, and Aura is an international developer. They have a lot of experience building around the Middle East. Their founder is one of the wealthiest people in Egypt, and he comes from telecom, and the brand already has a strong presence around the world, especially in the Middle East. This brand is well known, and they are going to be building some of their resorts in this community as well. So let's look at the community. It's beachfront. There is over 1 kilometer of beach line, so it's about 1.2, 1.5 kilometers wide and about 3.5 kilometers inland. So it is fairly big, and it's integrating aspects of nature, water, sand. In general, I mentioned here's the location between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. If we consider the location between, for instance, this and Al-Jurf. Al-Jurf often is a second home for people. I have clients who bought villas in Al-Jurf as a second home from Dubai. Some people, it's a getaway for the weekend. And investment-wise, it's sometimes a little bit tougher to predict how that area is going to grow. They're launching now Jacob & Co. Branded apartments. Of course, Shah, I think, will do very, very well. And here, because we're closer to Dubai, I think Bayn actually opens itself up to a different segment where it's people who are actually going to live there. And what can you compare this community to? Well, I recently covered Grand Polo from Emaar. We have Emaar South. And so there are communities being built closer to the south side of Dubai. And frankly, most of them are far out in the middle of nowhere in the desert. And this is right next to the water, which to me will naturally win over the long run. I'll cover specifics of the investment criteria and what to look for and who this could be for. But I think intuitively, you already understand that something that's going to be by the beach is going to have longer lasting value. Let's take a deeper look at the master plan. So they launched 2 clusters right now. There is overall supposed to be around 2,100 villas and townhouses in the entire community and about 6,800 apartment units. And so let's dissect which part is where. Here we have the beach. And right now these 2 clusters have launched. Here we have a lagoon. It's not swimmable, but it's between 30 and 50 meters wide. So it's adding water features. You have a canal over here with around 200 yacht berths. And here we're going to have beach clubs. I believe they're going to be building their own resort, similar to what they've built in Egypt. Here we're going to have more mansions and also incorporating a new feature that I'm seeing in some developments where it's an elevated concept where you have different rows of villas and different elevations. We've seen this in Asora Bay from Maras, where it was 60 to 350 million dirham for units. And here there's going to be elevated mansions. This is a hill essentially, and which adds to privacy, it adds to uniqueness, and it adds to visibility of the water. In terms of distance, these units, you're about a kilometer or so away from the beach, so it's maybe a 15-minute walk, or you can take a buggy that will be provided to the beach in just a few minutes. So all in, very close to water. Here we're going to have some low-rise buildings like G+4. I believe there's going to be some branded apartments here, more high-rise towers around G+20 down the line. TBD what the brands will be, but I like the vector. Here we're going to have a commercial sector where it's going to be a business park, as well as 2 international schools and a hospital. Of course, a shopping center. And within every community, as in any villa community, you're going to have the fitness centers, swimming pools, and all in, you can see that it's a pretty robust master plan. I think even more so than Al-Jurf, where Ohana and Imkan are building. So it's a more all-inclusive location. And distance-wise, I think it's quite nice because you're about 20 to 25 minutes to the Palm to the Marina. You're about 10 minutes away from Dubai, from the second Palm Jebel Ali, and you have easy access to Sheikh Zayed Road. And so this means also in the long run, it's close to Al Maktoum International Airport. And if I'm picking honestly between Emaar South and here, it's a no-brainer. I would pick here any day, simply because it's by the water and the quality of life, from my perspective, is much nicer. I personally don't know why people would want to live next to the airport unless they work there. I don't want to be hearing and seeing planes all day, every day where I'm living. I would rather have peace and quiet. But of course, there's nuances in each location, and there's still possible to have investments in Emaar South. Let's dive deeper into these particular units so I can tell you about the types of villas. The sizes generally and the prices, I believe, are quite good at these early stages. As I mentioned, there is going to be, as in any master community, you're going to have quite a lot of amenities, and I think having a promenade as well as beach is great. And we know the beaches in Abu Dhabi are better than Dubai, let's be honest. Unless we're talking about Emaar, where Salaya will be, that beach is fantastic. But in general, in Dubai, you have a lot of kind of darker, slightly murkier waters. And in Abu Dhabi, you have more natural mangroves, you have more wildlife, And in general, it's more of a natural and relaxed feel. Just flipping through some of these, so they have villas along the water, and they're also going to have beach clubs. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them, they have branded aspects as well. I want to cover the residences. So we have villas here along the water, which are called the Gemini Villas. So these are 4 and 5 bedrooms between 10.5 to 13 million dirham or so. Then we have double height villas, which is basically regular villas with double height ceilings. So for those of you who are tall like me, that could be a nice feature. And of course we have core villas, which are 3 and 4 bedroom standalone villas. And then we have some townhouses. My focus will always be on the larger units wherever possible from an investment standpoint. Buying something that's on the water at 10 or 12 million when you're walking distance to the beach, I think is quite good, because the overall price per square foot here right now is about 2,000. And this is not too different from Emaar South and in some cases Dubai Hills, but here we're on the water. The comparison here would be, of course, yes, Al-Jurf, where pricing is somewhat similar, but the location is farther out. I'll cover the master plan where I think this also wins. Here's another view of the two communities. Of course, fitness amenities. As I mentioned, here is a list of the villas, and I want to cover the different types. So these are the Gemini villas that are on the water, and all in, they have this interesting design where the parking level is actually here behind, and it's a step down villa where you're going down the stairs. So I think it adds a unique concept similar to perhaps LA, and we have a bit more privacy. Here's what the villa looks like, and you would step down into the lower floor. And in terms of the sizes, they're actually, I think, quite nice. So you have almost 6,000 square foot for a 5 bedroom and almost 5,000 square feet for a 4 bedroom villa. The prices for these I'll cover in a moment. These are the ones on the water. There's a very limited number of them. You can choose from a couple different themes. The double height villas, similar, they have 4 and 5 bedrooms. It's basically larger ceiling heights. And then we have I want to get to the core villas. Yeah, we have the 3 and 4 bedroom core villas, both standalone, which is nice considering what the prices are, which you'll see here in a moment. In terms of pricing, we have, for the Gemini villas, as I mentioned, about 10 to 13 million. For the core villas, between 5 and 7 million, and the townhouses are a bit below that. We have a nice payment plan that's 60-40. And in general, for villas, you generally see 80-20 from Emaar and Nahil from Damac, often, in that realm as well. And so it's nice to see something that's closer to something that allows us for resale potential as well, where it's better leverage. I think the quality will be quite high, considering it's an experienced developer. And all in, I think this opens up investment possibilities. So if we take another look at the community, let's discuss the investment prospects. Right now, the pricing is about 2,000 per square foot. It's definitely going to appreciate. To think, if we look at areas that are by the water in Dubai, in general, they're about 3,500, 4,000 minimum per square foot. So here, it's very likely to double in the coming years. These phases are handing over end of 2028. And if we talk about the types of units to aim for, I would be aiming for the canal units, of course, and as well as the 4 and 5 bedrooms. The 4 and 5 bedroom double height villas. I think the mansion units here are going to be quite nice. Of course, anything that's by the water here will be good, but the release dates for those are right now TBD. Right now, they're going through the launch and allocation process, and we can still submit an EOI, and I will advise you which units to get. But I think even from a, let's say, living standpoint, obviously I think the community is fantastic. I have many clients who are considering moving with their families to the UAE. They would love to live here because it opens up the possibility to go to Abu Dhabi if they want. It's close to Dubai, but it's not in the, let's say, in the chaotic business center part of the city. And here we have a community where it's from a known developer with its own beach, and for a price that, for instance, if you look at in Dubai, Palm Jumeirah villas are going to be 20, 30, 40 plus million. And where else can you find a villa that's on the water next to a beach for between It's like 6 and 13 million, almost nowhere. Perhaps RAC would be another option. Some options may be in Abu Dhabi, but in Dubai, no really such thing. So in terms of investment, I see this as a potential for resale, where the resale can happen just before handover, or we can hold this for the next 10 years plus. So this can be a good way for capital appreciation and preservation. So if we're talking about larger sums, we could get a number of units, and we know this is steadily going to increase in the coming years. We don't need to necessarily focus on making a quick return in the next 2 to 3 years, but that's going to be usually the minimum side of things for when we can resell. Sometimes I see investors misled where someone promises them that we can exit in 6 months or a year. Guys, it doesn't work. Be very wary if someone advises you to do that, because realistically, for us to resell at an appreciated price, it needs to be about 6 months or so prior to the handover. So mid-2028, so about 3 years minimum. Why? Because when we're reselling this to end users, for instance, they're going to need to take out a mortgage. To take out a mortgage, the building needs to be complete. And so that's why we need to sell close to handover, because the entire community needs to grow. The infrastructure has to be completed. It has to be a nice place to live, and that just takes time. We can also hold on to this longer term, rent it out. We can do a rental calculation later, but in general, beachfront properties and waterfront properties are always going to be in demand. So all in, living, rental, resale, short-term or longer term. So it checks a lot of boxes. Payment plan is quite good. And all in, right now it's an opportunity to get into an early phase of a giant master plan. When Dubai Hills was launching, people didn't believe in it either. When RAC 2 years ago, very few people believed in it. But look at what the prices are now. People have tripled their money in Dubai Hills. Some people have doubled their money in RAC. Some people, I've helped personally investors exit where we had more than 50% return in 18 months on capital invested. So these types of returns are unique in many cases to the UAE. And it comes in part when you have a master plan, a very stringent process for even becoming a developer, a lot of government regulation and therefore transparency in the process, escrow accounts for all units to make sure that your money is safe and used appropriately only for construction, a guideline for how long delays can be. Usually it's a maximum of 1 year. I know a couple of developers, I won't say who they are, but if you know, you know, delay for more than that. And so in general, communities where villas are prevalent are becoming more and more in vogue in the UAE because simply more families are moving to Dubai, people are starting families, and we see many developers starting to launch more and more villa communities. Another aspect is branded residences, which people who prefer to stay in hotels like Ritz-Carlton, Four Seasons, they're generally, when they have a residence somewhere or they're even looking to Airbnb, they're going to be focusing on higher end amenities, higher end resorts, and having branded apartments that will be here as well, I think will cater to this community. So the fact that the developer is already thinking ahead about this, they're covering a lot of areas and a lot of investment theses positives in one community: beach, branded, master plan, villas. And so this raises my trust in the developer and their strategic vision. And I would say, if this appeals to you, perhaps you're considering moving, perhaps you want to diversify your portfolio, perhaps you want to start investing in the UAE. And if my approach resonates for you, you can reach out. You can do it through the link above. Just say it's for Alex. You can find me on social media sites like LinkedIn and reach out and there as well. I'll be happy to work with you and with your family to see what the best option for investment is, what the best option for living is, because not every unit is created equal. We really have to fine tune and find the right unit, because even the location within the master plan will have an impact on your liquidity and how exactly we're exiting those. So I'm looking forward to getting in touch with you and getting to know more about your vision. You can leave your comments below as well. I'm always thankful for your support and for your continued watching of my videos. My intent with these is always to educate people about the market, help them expand their perspective so that they make more informed decisions. I've seen too many investors make decisions based on bad advice, and then they buy a developer or a unit, even in a good project, that they can't exit down the line, and it presents problems for their cash flow. So that's why I spend a lot of time educating the market, educating my clients, and working with them over the long term to make sure that they feel supported and guided, and they can do what they do best, and I do my job and help them make money. So once again, thank you guys for watching about Aura, Bayn. You can be watching this space for the next couple of years. It's definitely going to be growing. This and the areas surrounding it for sure are going to be expanding. And of course, as we know with anything in Dubai, prices are only going to increase, especially for beachfront properties. Once again, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it. My name is Alex, and I'll see you next time.